Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Lone Bear Sanipass. I am a Mi'kmaq native from Maine. I lived here most of my life, so far anyway. I've been spent most of my time in northern Maine. I lived up there with my family. I have had a family up there, up towards Squatpan Mountains. That used to be, now it's Lone Bear Mountains. And my family were migrant workers. We followed the crops from blueberry harvest to potato harvest. And my parents were basket makers, so that makes me a basket maker. I've been doing this for many of years. People call me a storyteller, musician, a liar. So the storyteller and liar kind of follows each other. So I'm going to tell everybody here, so you're going to listen to some of my stories. Take them with a grain of salt. If you are a storyteller, you know what I mean. Sometimes the stories have a tendency to stretch out sometimes. So some of my stories do that every once in a while. So it's really up to you. My suggestion is that the stories that you hear is trying to repeat the stories to somebody else. Because part of my job in my tribe is a storyteller. That means I am a person of the news. In the stories that you hear, a lot of the news travels in the stories. If you're Native American, we didn't have telegraphs. We didn't have the cell phones and stuff like that. We had elders. We had storytellers. We had runners. So that was all through storytelling what went on. The storytelling tradition is kind of leaving us as Native Americans because our storytelling is being replaced as we talk, and we wonder how that is. Storytelling is such an important thing in all cultures. We're all storytellers. I don't care who you are. You're a storyteller. If you repeat saying something to somebody else, you're a storyteller. Now, in our culture, that's being replaced. I'm going to talk about that just a little bit more as I speak. I grew up in a traditional family. I respected my mother and father, my grandmother and my grandfather. We stayed as a community, as a family. We worked as a community. We played as a community. We prayed as a community. Part of that is that that's being lost today. I find that it's not like that so much in families. It may be in some families, but what I see in this world, I've traveled all around this country speaking, and I find that where I go to speak, the families is not so in those communities anymore. The people that show up say, do you know your mother and father? Not very well, I knew my father and mother very well, my sisters, my grandfather, my grandmother. Because we shared stories, we shared community, we shared being together. I think sometimes our understanding of culture, especially when you say our culture, some people say they've never brought up in the culture. You have. If you are in some sort of community, if you are in some sort of town, if you go to school, if you talk to each other, you're in a community. You're in a sort of a family. Or a culture, and what a culture represents or what it means. Culture is something that we do over and over and over again. In my family, part of my culture was basket making. Is that the Indian way? No, it's not. It was the way that we brought food on the table. It was the way that we worked together. We were traditional basket makers, so we harvested our own wood. We didn't go on Etsy or eBay to order our materials. We actually went out in the woods and found our wood, what we needed for baskets. And the way we learned, my mother never sat me down, my father never sat me down. They said, this is the way you make baskets. In our family, that you watched, and when you felt comfortable enough to make a basket, you start making it. That's what we did. I mean, a lot of it just you look at it and do it and make the mistakes over and over and over until it looks like a basket. My sister claims that she's never seen me ever make a basket. I was going through my pictures the other day. I found 42 pictures of me making a basket, and I showed it to her. And she kind of laughed. Most of my family's still here. My mother passed away recently, several months ago. She was the last of the traditional basket makers in our family. It was very sad. My father passed away about 14 years ago. And since then, our culture has changed radically. You go to the north and look at the glaciers, The glaciers are going back because of the earth's warming. It's the same with our culture. Our culture is changing rapidly. That storyteller has been replaced in traditional families. That storyteller tells us what to do now. We don't have a grandfather we don't listen to. And even if we did, we probably wouldn't listen to him because that other storyteller took over in all of our lives. I can tell you, with your children right now, I can tell you who that storyteller, but I will leave that to the last. I find that I have a responsibility as a storyteller, is to tell the story, of course, but is to be able to relate to you of what that change is in my life. I don't have any degrees on my wall. I went through high school and I barely made it through there. I think education is very important in our family, in cultures and families. But education, I see education in a little bit different way than other people. My education, my children's education is I do something, they watch, they do it. That is education. In our culture, we don't have a word for art. Some people say, oh, you're an artist. I don't consider myself an artist. I can paint, I can carve, I'm an engraver, I'm a jeweler, I'm a basket maker. Was one of my ways I used to make money. At one time, I used to be in Bar Harbor when I was very young. I used to sketch portraits for $5 on a piece of paper. And is that an artist? You may say that's an artist, but to me, I always done that. I don't know I've learned that. A lot of that's in our culture, my family. I find that we get things misconstrued in our lives and we blame it on our father and mother. Education is paying attention. Paying attention this very day. You never stop learning. What I learned 40 years ago, I'm learning something different today. Every day is different in this world. And that's part of education. As storytellers, some people say, oh, yeah, great stories, things like that. Yeah, but like I said, those stories change every day. I don't stick with one story. I remember growing up, we didn't have a big house, but we had a big enough house to have family. I hunted and fished. That's part of my tradition and part of the way that I eat, even today. My uncles hunted and fished, but they were basket makers too. We kind of lived in a little small community. I think the misrepresentation is a sin in this world of natives. We look on the TV and see John Wayne. We've seen cowboy movies. Even today, even with Dance with the Wolves, they got it wrong. But we accept that as education of what we think natives are. But we don't do the research. Some people say, oh, I know natives. I have a native friend. We're all around you, Even today, when I go out and lecture and speak, I speak about me being native, but I also speak about other things. That's very important. Even Martin Luther King, through all the great teachers out there, first lesson that I ever learned being a Native American, it's not love. We would think that would be important. I look in this world and I don't see love. Not something. And I remember getting an argument with somebody in the audience when I was talking. He says, love's all around you. They said, what about when the deer is born and that little fawn comes out and the mother looks at the baby and she has love in her eyes? Love is misinterpretation. That's not love. That's survival. Now, what you do that little fawn was eaten by a wolf or a bear immediately. Is that love? How do you explain that in nature? Especially people trying to say, I'm a native or this, they're trying to understand what that is in nature. Oh, that's cruel. No, that's living. In our world, we kind of block that out as education. We block that out. They said, well, I eat a hamburger. Somebody has to kill that cow. That's taken out of your life. In my culture, that I hunted. I hunted the moose. I hunted the deer. I hunt the birds. I fish. That's part of nature. Is that love? I don't think so. That's survival. That's all of most of our people's life. We don't go see the pig when it's slaughtered. Thousands at one day. We don't even think about that when we eat the bacon. And does love exist in this world? I certainly hope so. Because we talk about it 1,000 times a day. My first lesson was kindness. How to be kind to yourself first. If you're not kind to yourself, you're not going to be kind to your neighbor. You're not going to be kind to each other. That is the first lesson of that deer, of that bear, is to be kind. But to accept what nature is. Some people come here today and said, I didn't come for this. I come from native drumming and native stories. This is the education that you never heard. I've been to 1,000 powwows and gatherings. I've spoken in front of thousands of people. And still, we don't understand what native is. I don't even understand what native is. Growing up in school, that I was the brown sheep of the family. Because I went to a non-native school. Is there prejudice in the world? Of course there is. Is there prejudice today? Yes. Is there bullying? Yes. We try to put education, put a light on that, and hopefully that stops. It disguises itself in a different way. Yes, I was picked on. I was called every name in the book, but I'm still here. Where are them people that said that? Survival. To be able to survive in your own element. As being a Native American, you would think that'd be out in nature. I could do that. But it's hard to survive here in these communities I go to. Because our education is all wrong. I'm in Maine. I looked on Facebook one day. Maine is the whitest state in the Union. And that's something. Some people don't even know that natives exist in their next town. We have 4 reserves here in Maine. Can you name them? Who they are? Probably not. Our education system doesn't look at that. They have some books about Native American, but they don't have all the real books of what we are. And you won't learn it from a book. You may be able to learn a roadmap from a book, but to understand what natives are and who you are, you won't learn it from a book. You'll learn it from each other. Community, kindness, compassion, and happiness. That's what I was taught first. How do you teach that? Shake the hand person next to you? Maybe? We can't do that. We have to wear a mask. We have to stay 6 feet apart. That's kind of hard to build community that way, isn't it? I've been out there talking for a long time. I get disappointed a lot. I remember several years ago, elementary school, my stepdaughter come home with a headdress of paper of all different colors, of feathers, and took this and just said, look what we did today in school. The teachers told us to do this. And it was mimicking a headdress. I kind of look at that, and my wife, I told my wife, I said, I want to go speak to that school. I want to deliver some education to them. To them, it was harmless. But to me, it was the most insult slap in my face. And people don't understand that. We are the people of the earth. We come from a traditional line. My family line goes back to the 17th century. We can trace it back. And was not discovered by Christopher Columbus. We were already here thousands of years before. We have a tradition. And to see paper feathers glued on and people running around, that's an honor to you. It's not. To learn who I am is an honor. It's like trying to mimic you, you know. Well, how do we think of the non-natives? And the natives are the same way. They took our land. They did this. They did all this other stuff. You didn't take my land. I didn't own land to begin with. I don't even mow my own lawn. So I don't know, where does it stop and where does it begin in education? I find that that's the hardest part of delivering this, especially coming here today and speaking to you. No, I get upset quite a lot, especially with the area that I'm in and how we try to, I've been doing this a long time. I've been out in the circuit for about 40 years. Hopefully somebody would listen. I went to London, England a year ago to speak about what I do. I've been in Washington State. I've been down in Arizona. I've been in all the different places speaking. Do we listen? Most times I'm entertainment. I'm a good laugh. Oh, good Indian. But that's not what I am. Am I a storyteller? To a certain point. Am I a translator? Yeah, I think I am. I think, too, that we all the fault here, including the natives. We draw lines. There is a beginning, there's an end. That's what nature tells us. But we stop learning when we think we know it all. And that's between 18 and 35. I know everything. I know everything. I don't need to know anymore. If love was in existence in this world, it would show itself now. It's a word that we escape from a lot. Use that escape. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. I don't even love myself. Peace on earth. You know, we don't want peace on earth. We keep on thinking it. It's great in sayings. It was a great symbol. During the 60s, we had a little bit of push in that direction. But you don't want it. We don't want that. We'd rather paint ourselves green and go out in a football field and holler and scream and buy beer and have a great time. Can you imagine if peace was a football game? We would already have it. Already. Because I'll be in that front line screaming for it. Because we're looking for peace on earth with each other, with ourselves. Now, I look on, we were just eating at a restaurant the other night and looking at all the football games up there, people playing, things like that. We don't want peace that bad. Sounds good. You know, people know more about football players and baseball players than their grandfathers. That's sad. And here we are today with the best technology in our hands. We can send a message to 1,000 people with a press of a thumb. Isn't that incredible? And what do we do with it? LOL. Seeing that with my children, seeing that teacher coming into our house and teaching my children what I have learned over the past 50 years. To give my children an education that I don't even know of the technology, the computer, the cell phone. We can be in communication with each other immediately, just with our thumbs. Isn't that incredible? In our tradition, it talks about a prophecy of a magic box ruling a children's mind And we're in that presence of today of that prophecy. And that magic box does rule your children. Try to take it away from them. You know, growing up too, that we say to our kids now, time out. When I was growing up, I wish we had a time out. We did not have a time out. So you boys, oh boy, you get a time out. I would rather get that from my father's strap. But we don't think about that either. Think about, I've been missing my mom the last, she passed on. You know, usually I have a place to go in Presque Isle, but it doesn't seem like I have a place to go now because that home's been closed. I'm out here in this world looking for my relatives. In a book somewhere, it says that we're all relatives, but we don't honor that. A lot of the times, like I said, if I'm saying something today that insults you, good, because then we're going to listen. We're going to listen. Because we don't listen, you know. Does God walk among us? I don't think so. Because if my dad walked among us, he would not like what we do. How we kill each other by the masses. How we treat each other and say something different. How we treat Mother Earth in this world. Father Sky. Wow. And I see all this. I've talked to the Dalai Lama several years ago about this, about teaching. I've talked to a lot of famous people out there about what I do. Do we care? I do. I find when we look up into the heavens, when we look up and look at the stars, we see promise. People ask me this a lot. You know, a lot of times I go speak, there's a big lineup. People want to shake my hand, and they ask me questions. Is there life out there? And if you really think about it, if you look at nature, if you look at the surroundings of you, if you really look at it in a logical, spiritual way. I'm not a Christian. And if you are, that's great. And if I insulted you, my apologies. If you look at it in a spiritual way, and I will get into that a little bit later, in a spiritual way, you look at it, look around you. Is there life around you? If we just look at humans, we're prejudiced. Yes, there's life around you. In this room, there's bacteria, there's other things that we don't even know. There's spiders and all the different things. And if you look into the heavens, there's a billion ways of life to exist. But our science, we need the proof. We need the proof right here. The proof is there if you look for it. If you listen to the ocean, I had a chance to listen to the ocean the other day. If you experience the cold, experience the warmth, the snow, the rain, all the different things out there, the feelings that you feel from that, to be able to have that experience of life, to me, no question, there is life out there. And through vibration, through light, through other ways that we can't even think of how life exists. Come with me on a journey. Everything you think you know, put that down. Open the spiritual eye. Clean your ears out. And if you ever have a heart, listen with your heart. We don't do this enough. in our world, currency rules our world. We have to put gas in the car. We have to eat. We don't hunt no more. Come with me. Come to me with me in the mountain in northern Maine. A long time ago, before this was even here, people could not speak. Their mouths opened, but no words came out. And that's something. For some of us, that would be a blessing, wouldn't it? But there's one great bird, the beautiful bird that flew around this earth, had big wings. The bird was black and white. The bird used to sit in a tree and look at all the humans that couldn't speak. And the bird used to try to talk to them. As the bird sang, the people stopped and listened, but they didn't say anything. The bird wondered, why can't these people speak? They have mouths, they have tongues. And when I sing, they stop and listen. Someday, I am going to ask my grandfather. But his grandfather lived so far away. His grandfather lived on the sun. That's a long journey, almost 8 minutes. And one day, on a beautiful day like today, the bird flew up into this big tree and he began to sing. I should ask my grandfather. It's not that far away. And plus, I owe him a visit. So the bird looked at the people and said goodbye. And the bird opened up his wings. And when he did that, the whole world became dark. And he flew up into the sky, and he circled into the sky. And he flew way up into the clouds. And the bird flew high into the blue. The bird flew so high, he flew past the blue by the moon. He flew by the moon and finally got to the sun. He sat on the sun, looked around. His grandfather was nowhere to be found. And the bird began to sing again. His grandfather heard him and went towards the music and finally found his grandson singing. And the grandfather replied, said, "Why is your song sad?" And the grandson said, my song is sad because all the people on this earth don't have a voice. Why don't they have a voice? And as the wise as the grandfather is, the grandfather thought, they don't have a voice. They never got a gift. And the grandson, never got a gift. Never got a gift. What does that mean? They never received anything. And the bird thought, I can give them something. Grandfather said, what can you give them? So he reaches back, pulls out a tail feather, and drops it to the earth. And this tail feather come from the sun to the earth, flew down, took a while to get down there and landed in the middle of those people. All the people gathered around and looked at the feather. And they looked at it for a long time. And they all walked away. Grandfather, I gave them a gift. They didn't want it. Grandfather says, the gift has got to be from your heart. The bird thought, a gift from my heart. The bird remembered a song that his grandmother sang to him. So the bird began to sing that song. I know what I can give them. These people on this blue earth can't talk. I can give them my voice. That will be a gift from my heart because my music, my song is me. It makes the universe vibrate. Your grandfather says, are you sure you want to do that? That is the greatest gift that the Creator has given you. The grandson said, from my heart to these people, I will give it. So he reaches in, pulls out his voice, and puts it in his claws. Opens up his wings, flies off to the sun. He flies by the moon, round the earth, into the blue skies, and found where the most populated people were, and flew up into a tree. And he looked down at the people. The one greatest gift that bird was going to give him is his voice. But there was only one. So many people. Who should he give it to? He could not decide. The most precious thing that that bird ever had, the Creator's gift, he was going to give away freely. So he's trying to decide who to give the voice to. His grandfather came down from a star, a falling star that landed in the north. And he came down as a man. And he began to walk amongst the people. No voice. And the bird was watching this, wondering what grandfather's doing. So he couldn't decide who should he give it to. There's many people out there that wanted the gift. Old man, old woman, young man, young woman, child. They all wanted it. But who's deserving? He was trying to decide who to give it to all around this world. He flew around the world many times. But his grandfather was already on the earth looking for one special person. And it was this young woman named Sarah. She was about 14 at the time. And the grandfather comes to Sarah. Grandfather puts his hand out. Hello. The little girl looks at the man. looks into the eyes of the universe. She puts her hand out, and grandfather says, "Hello." The people never talked, ever. This little girl goes, "Hello." She talked. And they went to the grandfather. "How are you?" The grandfather said, "I'm good." And the grandfather went all through the land talking to all these people. They had a voice, they could talk. Here's this bird, the most precious gift that was ever going to give. That spiritual vibration that comes from his heart to all these people. They already could speak. They already could talk. They had voices, they had language, they had other things. The grandfather gave them that. The bird looked at the people. "You lied to me. You guys already have a voice. And the most precious thing I had, I was going to give to you from my heart, from the Creator. You lied to me. All of you lied to me. I don't want to be here any longer. I'm leaving you. But before I go, I'm going to hide my voice so you can't find it. Nobody will find it, and nobody could ever use that voice again." So he looked around the world to hide his voice. He finally found a swamp, a very dark swamp, black, mud, everything else. In that middle of that swamp was a cedar tree, and that cedar tree stood so high into the universe. But into that top of that cedar, there's a hole. And the humans wouldn't go in that swamp because they were scared of the shadows that moved in that swamp. They would not ever go there. So the bird flew up into that tree, and he put his voice. Nobody would find it there. He opened up his wings and flew up into the sky. Said, "Nobody's going to find my voice. I'm going to leave you all here and go back to my home, to the sun." He got halfway to the sun, then he remembered, I should have took my voice with me. Then nobody else will find it. So the bird turns around and goes into that black swamp. You know, growing up, my storyteller, of course, was my grandmother and my grandfather and my great-grandfather. I listened to the story a lot when I was young. And the outcome was always the same. The bird left the people and was mad. And being with my grandfather, I was younger than he was, I heard the story so much, I don't know if this story is true or not. If he was pulling my leg, if he was making this up. I asked grandmother, he said, "Well, ask grandfather." So I asked grandfather, I said, "Is this story true, Grampy?" And I had chores when I was younger. I used to bring in wood and kindling for the fire where we stayed. He said, "Yeah, just get a load of wood and bring it in and put it down there. And I'll tell you how I know that this story's true." So I brought a load of kindling in, put some wood in the fire, and kind of sat there. My grandmother used to make me red rose tea and a little bit of powdered tea, a little bit of cinnamon, and a little bit of honey in there, and some bread for my snack. And I sat down with this and ate my snack. And I asked Grandpa, "How do I know it's true?" He says, "Well, on a spring day, go out into the forest and listen very carefully. And you could hear that bird looking for his voice." Okay, I can do that. So part of the story, he hid his voice into the tree. Then he come back. But he didn't remember what tree that was. That swamp was so big, that bird looked all afternoon and all the next day to trying to find his voice. He lost his voice in the tree. Never did find it. then flew off. And when I asked my grandfather that, he told me to go out into the woods and listen for that bird. Sometimes I believed Grampy, sometimes I didn't. So one spring morning, I went out, listened, heard the wind, nice warm day, into the deep of that swamp. I listened carefully. I'm a hunter, so I can hear things. I listened. And all I heard listening is, and you've heard this in the woods too. And what it was a woodpecker making a hole in the tree, looking in the hole, going to the next one. He did this all afternoon. If you were to look at the flute, it has the holes. And when we play the flute, we play his voice. Because that bird was the woodpecker. It was the ivory-billed woodpecker. And he has recently coming back to look for his voice. That's one of the stories. You know, I've told that story 1,000 times, 1,000 different ways. A gift. We talk about gift. You think of a gift now as some sort of video thing on YouTube. Have we ever got a gift? We might have got a package wrapped up in a fancy wrapping paper. So it might be something somebody's made you, maybe something. Do you realize happiness is a gift? Kindness is a gift? Compassion is a gift? We should give those more freely. We're looking for peace in the world. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while. I got a little reputation out there when I was younger to tell stories. And I was invited to Canada, Nova Scotia. They had a storytelling convention up there many years ago. All people around the world would come for 3 days and tell stories. And they invited me, a younger, to go tell stories. And yeah, it was good. But I remember my sister said, I would drive you up there. It's like 16 or 17 hours from here. So we drove up there and talked, and we had a good trip up there. And that afternoon when we got there, I think I got there Thursday afternoon. It was a 3-day thing. So, and the person that invited, his name is Gray Wolf. He's a very famous storyteller in the lodges up there, the Longhouse Lodges. And he welcomed me when we got there, and that night we had a good supper and things like that. But at the supper that night, I noticed something. Apparently, right off, I noticed something different when I went there. And I felt weird. I felt like I didn't belong there as a storyteller. And Grey Wolf was kind of looking at me. He says, what's wrong, David? That's my real name, is David, not David. David. Yeah, I said, well, I don't feel comfortable here. So, no, don't worry, you get used to it. You just knew. And I said, no, I don't really feel like I should be here. So we had that reception, and of course I sat around, talked to the other storytellers, a lot of famous storytellers there. I remember I was just younger. And the next evening I was on at 7 o'clock. I was on from 7 to 9. I have a hard time sometimes just filling a half hour sometimes, but like that's a lot of hours. And there was a packed house that night. And here I was in front of all these other storytellers and audience telling my stories. And I felt like I was the most awfulest storyteller in the world because It didn't seem like anything to me. But that night, I got a good reception and everything like that. And that afternoon, or that evening, Gray Wolf says, "You feel like you're distracted or something." I said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I still don't feel like I belong here." So, "Well, you're on at 10 tomorrow, Saturday." I said, "Okay." I said, "How long are you on?" "For 2 hours." So that morning we had breakfast and had a pretty good morning. Had a chance to walk beside the ocean. And that morning they introduced me 10 o'clock that morning and went up there and told my stories and got some laughs and things like that. And when I was done, Gray Owl said, "That was excellent, David, that was excellent." I said, "I still don't feel right." And so, "Let's go sit down. Let's have a cup of tea and sit down." He said, "What's wrong? Tell me what's wrong." So I sat down and said, "What's wrong, David?" I said, "Well, I'm kind of feel weird telling you." He said, "No, go ahead, tell me. I'm open." "All right." I looked around and says, "Everybody here has gray hair." He said, "That's all's wrong?" I said, "Yeah, I got black hair. Everybody's got gray hair. In order to be a storyteller, you got to be old and have gray hair." Gray Owl thought. He says, "Well, you're on again 2 o'clock this afternoon, 2 to 4, and tonight you're on until 8 until 9:30. And Sunday afternoon, we'll talk more about this." So I went on and all them 2 days and still got good standing ovation, things like that. And everybody's ready to leave that afternoon, that Sunday afternoon, and we sat down. He said, "This is all about the gray hair?" I said, "Yeah, it is." He says, "You got to do whatever I tell you to do. I'm going to help you with this. Do what I tell you to do. Would you do that for me, David?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do this." He says, "All right." So we sat down, had lunch, and my sister was there, and he kind of pulled me aside and said, "David, I'm going to tell you to do something. You need to do this." I'll say, "Okay." "Go bear hunting." "What?" "Go bear hunting." Go bear hunting. You know, I'm Mi'kmaq, right? We don't hunt the bear. The bear is our brother. You said you was going to do what I told you to do. Go bear hunting. All right. So we said goodbye, left. My sister and I drove the 16, 17 hours back, and I told him, "So that's Elder told you to go bear hunting." I was older at the time. I had a construction business, things like that I was doing. And go bear hunting. So I went to my office, and one of the talks I was talking, I think I was talking down in Philadelphia that a couple of weeks before that. And somebody had a Canon camera, and my father's a photographer, and I said, "My father has a kind of like a camera like that. I like your camera." And he gave it to me. He gave me a 35 millimeter camera with a telephoto lens, and he says, "It's yours." He gave me a gift. I said, No. He said, "You take it." So at the time, I was not a photographer. I worked with my father a little bit, but I was not a photographer. I looked at that camera, thinking, I can take that camera and shoot the bear with the camera. I shoot the shot. It's the same as shooting. I can get the evidence. I get the picture. So I started practicing taking pictures. I took a picture of my kids, my cat, my dog, my neighbor's cat, my neighbor, and I took pictures of everything. I learned about apertures and speed and what film to use, and all the different things. And my father says I was getting really good to be a photographer. You know, I never knew what an ISO was. I thought it was a club. So I got really good at taking pictures. So I'm going hunting bear now. So I called my father up. I said, "I'm going to come out and take a picture of a bear." My father said, "Oh, that's good." He says, "When are you coming out?" He says, "I'm coming out tomorrow." So I went out and I parked my car, went to see my mom and dad. Mom, oh my goodness, my mother had molasses cake. Oh, I love molasses cake with whipped cream. She had that and a cup of tea. And we talked, my dad talked, my mom and dad were making baskets. There was a lot of shavings on the floor. And I had my cup of tea and my molasses cake. Oh my goodness. We talked for a couple hours. Dad says, don't you have to go bear hunting? So, oh yeah, I have to go bear hunting. He said, go check down the edge of the field by the brook. They're kind of muddy and sandy there. You might see something there. So I got filled up, got my camera, walked across the field. And on the field, on the other side of the field, there's a cow pasture, and they have electric fence. You have to be very careful with electric fences. So I walked over the electric fence, went down by the water, by the water where the muddy and sand was, and you know what I was looking for? Bear tracks. In the Native American Handbook, on page 31, it says, if you are looking for a bear, look on page 31, you look for the tracks. The tracks for a 4-year-old bear is about like that. So I went looking for a track, went down the river, went on the other side of the river, looked, nothing. Not even a bird. Nice day. And wasn't too disappointed. I'm a Native American, so we supposed to know this stuff. So I went back home, went over the fence, down by Mom's, talked to them a little bit, and went home. So, not too disappointed. I had a couple of days off. So the next day I come back, still a nice day, and went and stopped see Mom and Dad, and she still had some of that molasses cake left over. Ate that, had a cup of tea, talked to Dad, and went across the field again. Went across the field, over the electric fence, down by the water, where the muddy and sand, went down the river. When you're tracking, you must be consistent. Because some people say you track, you can track, but animals are consistent, but not always consistent the way you think. They have a pattern, but they have a pattern between 15 to 18 days. So I went down the river, went up the river, looked around, still no tracks. Kind of felt weird because, you know, I'm Native American, I'm supposed to be one with nature, all this other stuff out there. I didn't feel one with nature that day. So I kind of went back up the river, went over the electric fence, down by Dad, talked to Dad. Did you see anything? I see nothing. So I'll come back tomorrow. But the next day I come back, a couple of things happened. It was drizzly, rainy, spitting rain, and I didn't want to go into the Mom and Dad's that morning because I didn't want to tell them I didn't see anything. So I just parked my car and kind of walked down because now it's foggy. The field was quite foggy. I kind of barely knew where the fence was. Of course, I walked right into that fence and I almost got, you know, once you grab a hold of those things, you can't let go of them. So I kind of struggled with that and rolled down around the ground for a while with that thing, jumped over that, and went down to where the corners, somebody moved the brook. That's all I can tell you. Somebody moved that brook. Because where I went down with that brook, there was supposed to be a brook there. The brook was gone. It was gone. So I walked down through the path. And I walked down through this path, and it had a log across like that. I didn't remember that the day, that just must have fell or something. I went underneath the log and got on top of the hill. And I'm looking around, consulting my Native American Handbook, how to find bear. I could find deer, really good, but not bear. I got up to the top of the ridge. I was looking around, and it's kind of foggy. The fog was moving in and out of the woods, like spirits going through the woods. You could see the fogs come in, get thick, like that. And right where I was on the ridge, I looked down, and I could see a brook down there. And right beside the brook, there was something black. So I got a little bit closer and got on top of the hill. I looked down there, and when the fog cleared up, you know what I seen? A bare butt. What that bear was doing, that bear's head was in the stump, and he was digging out the ants. And all I heard, and seeing the dust flying out of that thing, what the bear was, having a snack. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you ever went hunting before. And when you get hunting, you start, your heartbeat starts to get erratic and stuff like that. And there's, oh my goodness, like that. And I'll check my camera and everything. And I looked in my lens. All was in my lens, all I could see is like a black dot. Not enough picture to say it was a bear or even a bear butt. So, for some strange reason, when you're a hunter, I've been a hunter all my life. I went into the hunting mood. And the hunting mood is, this makes you smile. It says in the Native American Handbook, the hunting mood, that you do this. I don't know why. And you do in the hunting stock. And that makes you smaller, supposedly. So I started doing that. I checked my lens, still too far. I started getting closer to the bear and growing. So I got there, and I didn't want to get close to this bear. And I thought about this. My grandfather told me, said, if you are in the woods with a bear, you tell them that you are there. So what I did, I hollered down, hey bear! And that bear got out of the stump. He looked right at me. I go, hi! And the bear went back to what he's doing. When he was eating ants, he was digging that out. But now I don't have a shot. I'm looking at almost in the lens. But I got closer and closer. And after a while, I got kind of close to him, but he still wasn't coming out of the stump. And I thought about this. I said, hey, bear. He gets up. I take the picture. And I can go home. So he's close enough to me. So I got on the old cameras, you turn the flash on, you could hear it start to charge up. And when that light turns red, the flash would work. So I got my camera all ready. I go, hey, bear! That bear stood up. He looked right at me. And when he did that, that bear was bigger. Kind of surprised me. I took my camera and took a picture. And when that flash went off, I guess that kind of blinded the bear. And that bear was going like this. Going around circles and round circles. I guess that bear didn't think that was too funny, because when bear's eyes are not so great, but this smells really good. When that bear's eyes cleared up, he's looking right at me. And when a bear is upset with you, the bear will get back and he'll move his head back and forth like this. That means, I don't like what you did, or you might want to get out of here. And the first thing he does is he swats the dirt in front of him, and that's a warning. That means back off slowly and walk away. Of course, I didn't listen to that. I was looking at that. I turned around and ran as fast as I can possibly run. Where I came down through the woods, there was a path going where I came up. I forgot about the log. And when I ran, that log took me right across here, knocked the wind right out of me. And I landed on the ground trying to breathe, but here comes the bear. And that bear is coming right towards me. I get up and I said, I'm going to change my path. So I changed my path back into the swamp. And as soon as I did this, my right leg went in some mud. And went right up to my waist in mud, and I couldn't get my leg out of there. And I could hear this bear. And I look at the trees. The trees are going back and forth and everything else. I say, oh my goodness, that bear's going to eat me. So I finally pulled my foot out of there. But when I pulled my foot out of there, my shoes stayed down into the mud. I only had a white stocking on. So I could hear this bear coming. I see the trees moving. I took off running. I only had one shoe this time. I ran up over the ridge, and I was running. That bear was chasing me still. I got up top of the hill, but that bear was chasing. But now the bear was this bear is a big bear. I call him a jello bear, because every time he moved, you could see all his fur like jello. So I got to the top of the hill, but the bear is walking. Instead of going really fast, he's just barely walking. I got over the hill. Next hill, the bear is following me. He's walking really slow. I got to the next hill, no bear. And there was a fence there. I went over the fence. The grass was a little bit wet. And I kind of zigzagged up towards the field. I knew where I was because there was an oak tree right in the middle of the field where I played when I was young. I got to the oak tree, looked around, no bear. But when I bumped into that log, I dropped my camera. I didn't have my camera anymore. And I had one shoe, no camera. My evidence of my bear. I had to go back into the swamp and get that evidence. But I wasn't going back in there with an angry bear. So I looked at the oak tree. You ever get one of these ideas? Oh, I got an idea. I am going to climb to the top of this oak tree where it's safe and the bear wouldn't follow me. So I turned around and climbed this oak tree. Well, at the base of the oak tree is about this big, but it got really smaller. I got to the top of the oak tree, and I was at the very top, and the wind started blowing a little bit. When the wind started blowing, it started to rock me up there. I was up by myself. I was fine. The sun was coming out, no bear. And I said, I outsmarted this bear. So I'm up there just enjoying the breeze, rocking back and forth. Right down the corner of the field where I came out, you could see the path on the grass where there was no water in my path. That jello bear came out. What he was doing, he was sniffing my tracks. He followed my tracks all the way through, over the fence, all through the field, and the bottom of the oak tree. You ever get to one of these moments? Oh no. I looked down, the bear looked up. And the bear took one of his claws and sunk it into the side, boom. Sunk the other one, boom. That bear is climbing trees. I didn't think about that. Bears can climb trees. And that bear is coming up towards where I was. Sometimes we think we have the smarts in our brain to figure things out, to figure life out, to figure all the different things in there that we don't think about. Consequences, I guess we call them. Now, I was thinking about my consequences that day. The decisions that I made. Were they the right decisions? I don't know. But I knew that afternoon I was going to meet the Creator or God or somebody because that bear was going to mess me up. I thought about my life. At that time, it wasn't a very long thought. But that bear was getting closer and closer because I can feel him. I looked up to the heavens. The sun kind of came out a little bit. It was beautiful. The rays came down where I was, and that was my ticket to heaven, I guess. I closed my eyes for the last time, thanked the Creator for my life, and that bear got closer and closer. And that bear kind of climbed up where I was. How I knew he was that close in front of me. I could feel him breathing on me. I could smell his breath. His breath smelled like ants. But to this very day, that bear didn't mess me up. He didn't bite me. He did not growl at me. He didn't scratch me. I opened my eyes that day to the Creator's Word. And when I opened my eyes up, here's this bear right there, right there. And I could see his eyes and ears going back and forth. You know, I tell the stories that the animals talk, and that animal talked to me that day. And you would think it would be something profound, something that the Creator said, something like that. But that bear's word was clear as day to me that day. Them words are so understandable. People ask me, what did he say? when I heard the voice of the bear said, "You dropped your camera." I thought, "I'll bring it back to you. Here you go." Gave me my camera. Went down out of the tree. I was shooken up. I still didn't have a shoe. Went down out of the tree. Walked home. Walked past that field. Didn't even stop and see Mom and Dad. Got in my car, went home. Got back to my office. One shoe, black sock. Checked my camera. No film. I looked in the mirror. Wondered what this is all about. Why does this happen? I looked in the mirror and I seen gray hair. That next fall, I was invited back to the Storytellers Convention, met Gray Owl. First thing he seen me when he at the door, he said, "You went bear hunting." That is the end of that story. You know, trying to find an answer in this world. Try to find your life as who you are, what we are. What are we doing here? Why is there pain and suffering in our world? Who is the creator? Who's God? Who's the programmer? I hear these a lot. Hate exists not in nature. Hate exists in our spirit, not in spirituality. Something that happened to us, if we hate somebody so bad, we'll kill them. We hate somebody so bad, we talk about them. If we are wise, we should use it. Be able to take something and be able to use that wisdom. We don't. We think of elders, wise people, oh, they got great words. They're not great words if they don't benefit you today. If you don't go here, home today and take my words and be able to benefit from it, I'm not. This is really hard to say because I see a lot of crap out there. I see a lot of misnomers. I see a lot of things that are not true. This machine, our teachers today that we believe in, that phone that we text on, that computer that we use is technology, but it's taken over your mind. Do you go to the bathroom with your phone? Do you go to bed with your phone? Do you drive with your phone? That is your teacher. You spend more time on that machine than you do with your mate. You spend more time on that machine than with yourself. You know, I'm guilty as charged. I own one of the machines. In the prophecies, it says that mind will take your mind away. It will keep you from thinking. You know, part of that prophecy is that rainbow monster that has a tail. To be able to take that power away, you pull his tail. And I've heard this 40 years ago. And I'm thinking about rainbow monster, that's mythical, that's all that stuff. But if you look on any of your technology, it does have a tail. It plugs into your wall. If you unplug it, you take the power away. We give it power. And this day it's hard to say because a lot of the audiences I go to see, I look in the audience, you can see blue faces because they're on their phone. LOL, text message, Facebook, all the different things. Somebody's selling to you on this machine. That's in our prophecy. Every 15 seconds. Look online. That's awful. I remember driving and thinking about this, and I'm driving and stopped at the intersection, a three-way intersection, six-way intersection. I look in front of me, guy's on his phone. I look beside me, they're texting. This person's texting on this side. Everybody around me is on their phone. So I called my wife and said, you know something? Everybody's on their phone. Even I. We don't think about that. We think it's a great, when you go home today, when you go back, look around you. We have masks on and talking to our phones. What kind of life who predicted this? If there's ESP in the world, who predicted this? Nobody. Do I believe in ESP? Probably not. I believe in coincidence. But we put too much faith in a lot of these misnomers. Even as Native American, I'm superstitious. We all are. You realize the United States is the #1 superstition community around? You look online. You can become a faith healer. You can become a Native American. You can become a healer. You can be good with stones. You can be good with that. I don't have anything against that if that didn't harm anybody, but it harms our spirit. Our true connection to Mother Earth. It's a clear connection to the Creator. There's no phones. There's no stones. There's no medallion that you can put around your neck to be more spiritual. Your kindness will show how spiritual you are. It doesn't take any cross or anything that looks or feathers or drums. Them are all tools. I see this a lot. And it hurts me. It hurts your community. It's hard to get around. Most of the lectures that I give about spirituality, the majority of the audience walks out of my talks. Why? Because I'm infringing on their territory. I'm saying something they don't want me to say. A rock won't heal you. You can heal yourself. You don't need any tools. Misnomers. The drums, sweetgrass, all the different things out there. Misnomers. The most powerful thing that you have today is yourself, the belief in yourself. Not to God, not to the Creator. The Creator will never change your life. God will never change your life unless you do something about it. Too many our young people committing suicide because they don't understand where they are, especially in my communities. This is the true story. I'm a storyteller. I'm going to tell you. Sometimes the stories could be cute and everything else, but if you really listen where we are in this world, we're in trouble. Our world's in trouble, not because of the glaciers, it's because of what we learn. Learn kindness to yourself. Learn kindness to your community and family first, before you want to change the world. Only way you're going to change this world is you change your mind. There's the old self and new self. The old self was yesterday. The new self is today. Always will be, always going to. Don't stick in one place for 30 years and blame everybody else. You find that everywhere. Because we do that. One event in our life that changes our life, that we stuck there, and we live it every day, and we tell everybody, this was what bad happened to me in my life. I can sit here and tell you all the bad things that happened in my life, but I can also tell you all the good things that happened in my life. All the beautiful people I've met. Don't stick in one place, because after a while, you're going to believe it. You know, there's not enough talk in the world. Too much texting. That's not talk. Communicating with each other. If there was a God, if there's a Creator, and if you knew where He was speaking, would you go to hear Him or hear her or whatever? We don't have time anymore to do stuff like that. We want to believe in the weird stuff. Do you realize if we all agreed on having peace, we'll have it in the next 30 days, if we all agreed. But that's not enough. LOL. Just want to thank you for having me here today. I enjoyed what I do. I'm still on the road speaking. The last year or so that we've been off the road, we've been figuring out how to get the message out to you. We have a number of websites up and different things, and find us. Come and find us. Come and find out what I'm talking about. Most people don't realize that. You know, there is a pattern for success out there of being of spirit. I'm not going to sell your book. So come and find us. Just want to thank you. Hope your day is good. And come and find out who we are. Thank you very much.